Hey everyone, welcome into Dom Time. Thanks so much for joining us tonight. Big national issue. I know on my radio show it has exploded, and we have a tremendous array of guests today to talk about it, debate it, and break it down here in the Pennsylvania, New Jersey area. Michigan, of all places, Michigan just became the 24th state to say, as I understand, well, we'll get a definition from our guest, that workers, in my view, are liberated there, that they have a right to work without paying union dues. And the paying of union dues, that is a critical factor. That's what all this is about. Maybe you've seen the violence around this. Maybe you've heard all the back and forth. One side saying this means the end of organized labor and it means the end for the middle class. Joining us to talk about this on the phone with us is an old friend of the show, State Representative Daryl Metcalf from Butler County, and in studio with us, John Featherman, former candidate for mayor, currently with Pennsylvania Right to Work, loyal opposition, real estate guy, and all kind of raconteur. John Featherman will be in the show too. Let's go to Daryl Metcalf. Representative Metcalf, thanks for joining us.
Good to be with you, Dom, and good to be with John.
Representative, how would you define specifically, in your view, what right to work means? The other side is saying this means right to lower wages if it came to Pennsylvania or New Jersey.
Right to work just seeks to restore a very basic freedom that every American should enjoy, and that is the right to be employed without being forced or compelled to pay any form of union dues to a union that you would otherwise not choose to be associated with.
All right, now here in Pennsylvania then, if it's so straightforward, and I'll bring John in on this too. A moment ago, my show the other day, the radio show, Governor Tom Corbett, to be honest, I was going through a checklist of things just to make sure I clarified everything with him. I said, Governor, what about right to work in Pennsylvania? And all hell broke loose. I didn't even know what he was saying, and that the Associated Press picked up on it, Business Week, and a lot of others. Daryl Metcalf, I'm sure you've seen it. The governor's saying essentially, there's no spirit, there's no move to do that here. I know you've been the father of several bills around that. If he's right, Governor Corbett, why not? Why not common sense here in Pennsylvania?
Well, it is common sense, and it would be a huge economic boost for us.
But why not, Daryl? I don't hear people taking to the streets as they did in Michigan, the capital of labor unions. Why?
Well, I think the labor unions don't fear that we will ultimately make it happen here because they have so much influence over the Pennsylvania legislature. They've essentially bought and paid for the Democratic caucus, and they have a couple of dozen members in the Republican caucus in the Pennsylvania House of Representatives that they influence in a very great way to the harm of Pennsylvania taxpayers and Pennsylvania workers.
All right, let me put you on the spot then. We know about the Democrats, and I would agree with that. I'm not sure of Republicans or any of them in leadership. Who would you tell me that you think follows the labor line on this type of thing and is blocking the way to have, as they did in Michigan, Republicans take them on like you?
Well, as I said, there's probably a couple of dozen members in the House of Representatives, many from the southeastern part of the state.
Any names?
Philadelphia and the surrounding counties. There's a couple that have been out in the Erie area, Beaver County area that we have some members that are influenced more by the unions. But I think from day to day, issue to issue, I think we could pull some of those members with us. And I think we especially could if we had more activity on the ground from our supporters that show in poll after poll that the majority of the electorate believe that workers should have this freedom to decide whether or not they want to be in a union, not be forced to pay union dues if they don't want to be.
John Featherman, do you share that it's a couple dozen Republicans, as Daryl Metcalf says? Democrats, we know. That's their party, that's their side. But in Michigan, United Front, Wisconsin, United Front, these are tough labor places. Is Pennsylvania worse?
I don't think Pennsylvania is worse. I think that when you look at Philadelphia in particular, Philadelphia is an anomaly in Pennsylvania. It is one of the few places in the country where the labor movement still is relatively strong. We saw the other day that security personnel, in fact, just became unionized. However, we're not opposed to that at all. We support the rights for unions to exist. We support the rights for people to join a union. What we don't support is people having a gun to your head, metaphorically speaking, and forcing you to join a union and having a closed shop. And I want to congratulate State Rep Metcalf because he has really been at the leadership of giving Pennsylvanians a choice. This is all about having a choice whether you want to have union membership or not, whether you want to
Okay, let me
pay
go back
dues.
to the representative because he's only with us for a little bit here. Representative, in the Philadelphia Inquirer this week, front page story though, coming off Michigan, the chairman of one of these lead business councils across Pennsylvania says, why would we do this in Pennsylvania? We've had labor peace for the last 20 years. No one wants to rock the boat. Everything is fine in Pennsylvania. That's literally what he said. What do you say to that?
Well, I'd say that he does not speak for the majority of our business owners in this state. I was just visiting with a small business owner here in my district this morning that was very passionate and adamant that we need right to work in Pennsylvania. I've talked to a lot of business owners that support this initiative. A lot of the folks with the Associated Builders and Contractors support it. The Pennsylvania Manufacturers Association, I know, supports it. We have the Pennsylvania Manufacturers and Business Association. They support it. We have a lot of businesses that support this, a lot of small business owners that support it, a lot of contractors out there that support it, and more importantly, a lot of men and women in the workforce that support it. And, the spokesman for the Business Roundtable certainly doesn't speak for the majority of businesses in this state.
Let's connect the dots, too, for people that may not even be a work issue. To me, a bigger issue of this, Darryl Metcalf, and what this is about on the grand scale is this, that these union dues, I was a member in New Jersey of the NJEA. I had no say in where that money was going. In fact, I never even saw it to send a check to them. The school district took it and sent it right away to the NJEA. This is about presidential politics too, because if unions can't get that money from every single member, it diminishes some of their influence in a state like Pennsylvania toward a presidential election.
I think it's more about accountability for the union members to be able to hold their union bosses and their union accountable. Because I hear from a lot of members of unions out in Western Pennsylvania here that they don't support the politics that are being driven by the union bosses that have sway over the union pocketbook. So union members, through a right to work action here, where they'd have the freedom to leave the union, take their money with them, they'd have more of an opportunity to hold their leadership accountable in the unions to ensure that they're not out there speaking out of turn, that they're not doing things that are harming the membership of the union, that the union members would ultimately have more accountability through a right to work policy.
Absolutely. State Representative, thank you so much. If we don't speak, Merry Christmas to you. Thank you very much for joining us today here on Dom Time.
Thank you, Dom. Merry Christmas to you and John and all of your listeners, and we'll look forward to talking to you sometime in the new year if it doesn't happen sooner.
Thanks very much, Darryl Metcalf. Coming up, I'll ask John Featherman, who's headquartered Loyal Opposition here in Philadelphia, is there any break in the union control of Philadelphia? Is there any hope on the horizon? We'll find out next here on Dom Time.